Okay, so this first tile that I'm going to lay in this spot here needs to be cut around the post and the wall. So I'm going to lay this in like that, allowing enough room for a joint. And the first marks I'm going to make on it are for the cuts this way. So I'm going to be a mark there. And a mark here. Then I'm going to take this off and set it out of the way. To work out how much I need to cut off the tile here and here, all I need to do is measure from here to there and from here to there. So the first measurement, I'll give it a little bit of a gap. I can allow a bit of a gap around this because there'll be skirting board going around later. So if I measure that, 472. So 472. And then the wider cut, let's check in case the wall's out, 520 there, yeah, 520, so this bit will be 520, this one, so about there. Of course that's a full tile that goes through that part. There we go, so that'll suit, and I'll put it back in place so you can see it suit. So it's simply measuring from the edge of the tile to the wall, this post gives us that distance, edge of the tile to the wall gives us that distance, 2 marks there gives us these cuts. This bit doesn't need to be cut obviously because it's a room for a full tile. So I'm going to cut this outside now with my grinder with a diamond blade on it. I'm confident it'll fit. It's a pretty straightforward cut. Okay, remove these little wedges out of the way. And just try it first. So that can be glued in place. Okay, so I'm going to use this tile. It's got a damaged corner, but that's okay. I'm going to use it in against this wall here, and that'll be cut off anyway. There we go. To measure how much to cut off here, I'm going to sit this tile in place over here. With the right gap. Make sure it's parallel with that tile so it's square. All I have to do now is to measure, so 517, yeah, about there. So, and the same measure from there to the wall, which will be from there to there on this tile. That'll tell us how much to cut out for here. .530. Just going to check that measurement, see if the wall's out. Yeah, we'll get away with 530. So if this edge that I'm cutting was going to be seen, I would use water while I was cutting it to lessen the likelihood of chipping. But in this case, it doesn't matter. Once I cut this off, it's going to be covered by skirting board on the wall. It'll cover that. So I'm not worried about having a chippy sort of cut. So I'm not worrying with the water in this case.
Out back with a hammer in hand, turning old walls into something grand. Dust on his boots, plans in his head, tools all around and a vision ahead. Lisa's inside where the screens are aglow, cutting the clips so the story flows. Coffee in hand, headphones on tight, making magic on the timeline late at night. Oh, we fix it and film it, building dreams from the ground. Phillips making sawdust while Lisa cuts the sound. From the workshop to the edit suite, we're making something real and sweet. Yeah, we fix it and film it, so come along and see this little YouTube world of ours where we make reality. Phillips measuring twice to cut once clean, working out a way to build their dream. Patching, painting, leveling floors, always one job away from starting 10 more. Lisa's trimming clips like a movie pro, adding the beats to the hammer blows. Thumbnails popping, the title's tied, gonna post that upload later tonight.
So I'm just going to set up my tile cutter. This tile cutter cuts tiles up to 650 millimeters wide. Unscrew this little knob, lift the guide bar out. This part here goes into this little hole there. Move that out of the way. and then this locks it into place. And you can lock it in at different angles. You can lock it in at 45. So there's your 45 mark there. Put that on the mark and you lock it in there, and you can cut your tiles at perfect 45 degrees. So you lock it in by winding this down, and that tightens that in position. So what we'll do is just put it at 90 degrees now to cut the tiles. This is a guide. If I was cutting a tile 200 millimeters, put the measurements here on the bar, then I'd set this little guide up to there, lock it in place with the knob, and then all I will have to do is slide my tile up to that mark and cut the same size repeatedly without having to remeasure. So handy to have. So I'm going to go and get the tile and cut it to size. Right, so I need to mark this tile up to fit into this space here. I'll do the length first. So I've already got that with this one, 530. Make sure that's the factory edge because that's running along here. That's going to be important. That's the factory edge there. This is a cut tile already. With this is the rough edge. A little mark there. So that piece will cut off. And then this piece, 205. And up here it'll be a bit different, 215. Okay, so that's good. First one we'll cut off is the end, and then we'll be able to cut that straight through. Now this way around. Remember, we can't place this square onto this guide because the piece that I'm cutting is slightly wider, so I'm needing to line up both the marks that I measured with the wheel. So line up the mark with the wheel at this end, and then this mark, and there's the wheel. This mark needs to come around, so the tile needs to be swiveled, moved sideways. Just check this mark's still lined up. Okay, mark, yep, okay, we're ready to score. So that's our tile. When I set this in place, I may as well cut the next bit the same size. So I've either got to remember the measurement or I transfer the measurement from this tile to the next tile. So I've already got it. It doesn't really matter so much in this instance because the skirting board's covering the edge. But now, having said that, we have worked out that it's getting wider this way, the gap, because this house isn't square. So what I'm going to do is transfer this mark onto the next tile. So I've got the continual mark getting wider as it goes along. So here's one here. And I need the factory edge running along there. And I'll just put a mark here. Okay, so that'll be ready for the next one. Now, before I need to cut the corner beading off so I can slide my tile underneath. So I've laid the tile on the floor. I'm going to allow about 3 millimeters thickness extra for glue. So I'll just mark that with the pen. So to cut the bottom of the timber beading off just so I can slide the tile in underneath, I'm going to use a multi-tool. I've got a little Makita battery multi-tool, cordless, very handy. You've got a variable dial here where you can have it full speed or slower speed, depending on what you're using it for. And this is the actual blade here. All it does is it goes back and forth like that very rapidly. And it's a high hardened, toughened steel, and it's amazing what you can do with this little tool. Makes life a lot easier. Okay, so I'll cut it out of the way now. You can pick these things up with cheaper brands, and they'll probably be good enough for what you need for your little DIY job. They're a great tool to have, very handy. Right, now to put the glue down. A little bit of a fiddle because we've only got a small little space here, but yeah, we'll do the best we can. You don't want to leave too much glue in there, otherwise you're going to have to work hard to press the glue out from underneath of the tile when you've laid it, and it'll be too high for this. It's hard work, so you want to try and get it right first time if you can. Right, I'll spread the glue. That's in case I put my feet on it and walk the glue everywhere. All right, now to butter the back of the tiles because they're a large format tile. Okay, put this little baby in place.
Well, we fix it and film it, building dreams from the ground. Phillips making sawdust while Lisa cuts the sound. From the workshop to the edit suite, we're making something real and sweet.
Okay, now I'm going to put the next one in place before I go any further. Now you'll notice the back of this tile is a different colour because I had spread glue all over it, but then I happened to knock one of the corners and chip it off, so I kept it for a cut tile. So it's got a bit of dried glue on it. Obviously I scraped all the old glue off, but it leaves a mark. I had to come clean, it was on my conscience.
From the workshop to the edit suite, we're making something real and sweet. Yeah, we fix it and film it, so come along and see this little YouTube world of ours where we make reality.
Factory edge along there and factory edge along there. This is cut, so make sure I've got it the right way around. Okay. Okay. Cut, that's right. Lovely. Okay. And you can see where my foot was, and that's why I scraped that glue off, because I thought I'd do that. So I'm going to remove this glue from here, because my next tiles that I lay need to be the ones leading to the doorway. So I'm going to lay those tiles, because I can stand on this floor. It's not been tiled yet, so I've got a good place to stand. Lay those tiles up to the doorway, and then I can lay the tiles, work my way back out onto this tiled area that was laid before. $105, $195, $105. $428. $478. $190. Maybe a little bit off. $162. $78. Right, I'm going to cut this.
Igniting a flame across the nations for DIY home transformations. With every job done, a story's told, turning everyday life into solid gold.
208.
With every job done, a story's told, turning everyday life into solid gold. We fix it and film. That's the life we choose. Philip builds the future, and Lisa makes the view. So just hit that like and stick around. There's always a fix to be found. Yeah, we fix it and film it. So just you wait and see.